the latest therapy for COVID that's come to India this week is monoclonal antibodies, which were famously used to treat the then President Donald Trump. Now, the first COVID patient in India who was treated with the monoclonal antibodies cocktail was discharged from the Medanta hospital in Haryana on Wednesday, a day after he was administered the jab. The patient, an 82-year-old man with multiple comorbidities, went home after getting the jab at the hospital. Monoclonal antibodies mimic the immune system's ability to fight off viruses and other harmful pathogens. Well, to talk more about this, we're joined by Dr. Sushila Kataria, Senior Director, Internal Medicine Department, the Medicity Medanta. Thank you so much, Dr. Kataria, for joining us on the show again. And tell us more about this particular treatment. The first patient got it. Does he just require that one jab?
Yes, monoclonal antibody is like a passive immunity. So it is a ready-made immunity. These are the antibodies which are prepared in the lab, and you can have zillions and zillions of copy of this. So whenever any infection goes into our body takes time to build that immune response. But some people do not have that luxury of, building that response and fighting. So this kind of passive immunization, which you give immediately and you give an boost to fight the infection inside the body. So this is a monoclonal antibodies. Usually we give 2 monoclonal antibodies together so that it can fight the variants, because most of the variants, when they change structure, there could be a chance that it can escape that one monoclonal antibodies. So it is usually just one jab, and patient, it's an OPD procedure totally. The patient has to stay in that area for maximum 45 to 60 minutes, and then it is done.
All right, but this treatment is very expensive. This therapy, we do know that one dose costs 59,000, and you need a combination of 2 doses that comes to 1,20,000. So will this remain something that will be used, in just some very few private hospitals and only for those who can afford it?
So there is a little clarification here. The cost of 59,000 something is the combination of both. This is just given simultaneously. It's one injection. So it is not like 2. So total therapy cost for medicine only would come around this. That's what the company has marketed it around. Yes, in a country like ours with huge population, and we have to use our resources to the most optimal way. So this has been approved for high risk category patients who are likely to deteriorate in future. This is not for everybody. And this is, if it's given very early into the disease, it's more effective. So first week is the real time when you can utilize it. The high-risk group would be anybody who's more than 65 years of age, people who have a BMI more than 35, kidney patients, transplant patients, HIV patients, patients on chemotherapy, radiotherapy, immune-suppressed patients, and also in children, vulnerable children also you can give. So you know that the cost is there, but if it can prevent hospitalization, which it does in 70% of the people, so it saves a lot of money. 50,000-60,000 would be equal to 3-4 days of hospital stay, or maybe 2 days of ICU stay. If we can prevent that, we will reduce a lot of burden on the healthcare services. We can keep a lot more people healthier and out of hospital. That should be our aim.
Right, and this therapy can only be administered at the hospital, and the timing, as you mentioned earlier, if you can just elaborate a bit on that, is very crucial. It has to be given early on in the infection.
Yes, this is because it's a passive immunization. So somebody who's into the first week of disease, because first week is the viral phase. Later on, you have the immune mechanisms initiated, and there is a dysregulated immune mechanism. So if somebody starts with fever, throat symptoms today, then the coming 1 week is the time window period when it can be given, and it will be most effective. Though the manufacturers say it is up to 10 days, but earlier is the better. And it has to be given in a setting where sometimes there is a rarely evidence of allergic reactions. So any place which can manage allergies is the best place to give it. It doesn't require hospitalization. The emergency rooms, the outpatient clinic rooms, or the injection rooms are the best areas. You just need to observe the patient. So there should be a trained staff, doctors, and somebody who can manage an allergic reaction if it so happens. In the research in US, it has been used very widely, and it has been used in OPD care also. So they found that the incidence of allergic reaction is less than 1%, but yes, it may happen.
So that is something you're going to keep an eye on. So it sounds very promising for especially the high-risk patients right now, but it's early days, and this has to be seen, and the patients also have to be watched carefully. I want to talk to you more about the various therapies, because in India there's been a lot of controversy about people running after various therapies. Earlier, plasma therapy, which has now been removed from the list of therapies to be advised. Just now, the news has also come that the subject expert committee has recommended emergency use authorization for a remdesivir tablet, which will hopefully be cheaper. Now, even remdesivir, we know WHO has removed its advice on remdesivir. So this is all very confusing for patients. If you could just explain to us.
So various kinds of treatment for COVID-19 depends on the time where the person is and who is the person. It has to be individualized. So guidelines gives you a brief, outline in which you have to treat the patients, but it depends on the time. So if somebody comes into the early first week of illness, if the patient is mild to moderate, mostly they require is a symptomatic treatment. And now for the high risk group, you have monoclonal therapies. For patients who go on to oxygen and are into the second week of illness, steroids and remdesivir, and sometimes maybe some immune modulators like tocilizumab. All these things are immune modulators. They do have their good and bad side of it. So the therapy has to be under a medical supervision, and it also depends on when the patient has presented. So if somebody is presenting after 3-4 weeks of infection, so most of the therapies will not be effective because the damage has already been done. The lungs are scarred. Then you need to do a lot of nursing, rehabilitation, physiotherapy to these patients. So all the medications do have their own role, but it is given in a specified timelines into a particular category of patients. When it is given at the right time to the right patient, it is beneficial. But if anything which is used out of the window is used in quantity which is not specified, it may cause harm.
And here you're specifically talking, of course, about the controversy over steroid use in the country, and that's something that has become, much talked about. Karnataka has just given an advisory not to give steroids in the first week of a coronavirus infection. However, it does remain one of our key ways of fighting the disease, isn't it?
Absolutely. I have a huge respect for steroids. It is the only medication which have been shown to reduce mortality. And ever since the famous study from UK came and people started using in moderate to severe patients, it's very, very helpful. It is an important tool to fight COVID-19 immune dysregulation process. But people has to be just wiser, not to use in the first week, to use it for the shortest possible and in the doses prescribed. Also to look after the sugar control and other immune suppressed conditions during this time. So we cannot straight away write off steroids completely from COVID care. This is one of the most important weapons. But yes, one has to be careful about diabetes control and regulation of other immune mediated conditions which might alter with the same.
All right. Well, we're now opening up the show for our viewer question segment, and we have Dr. Lancelot Pinto back with us, and we have a caller from Orissa, Sameem Hussain. Go ahead with your question.
Ma'am, good morning, good afternoon, ma'am. Ma'am, I have a question that my parents both are super senior citizen, as above 80 years. First thing, the second thing, they have to take both vaccines, both doses. So I am worried that after taking a medicine, vaccine, so it will be any kinds of issue in future related, health related.
All right.
I'm worried about...
Right, Dr. Sushila, his parents are over 80 years and both have taken the doses of the vaccine. He's worried over any sort of long-term side effects.
So I think the safety of the vaccines has been very well proven. So there is no side effects now. They have taken it and they haven't developed any side effects. So there are no long-term side effects. He can be rest assured. If his question was that if they have taken vaccine and in future if they develop COVID, unfortunately, whether he is able, would they be eligible for any kind of therapy like monoclonal antibody therapy? To that, my answer would be yes. If sometimes elderlies do not develop that kind of robust immunity that it can prevent an infection. So in that scenario, it can be given, but there are no side effects to vaccination. I will reiterate that again.
Right, and people shouldn't just look at too many WhatsApp forwards. We have Gurmeet calling from Pune. Go ahead with your question, Gurmeet.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was having a COVID in the month of April, and I recovered in the month of 15 April. I recovered. I want to take the vaccine. My age is 58. I am not taking even the first dose.
All right, Dr. Pinto, she had COVID in April. She's recovered on the 15th. She's 58. She wants to know when she can take the vaccine.
The general recommendation is to wait for about 2 to 3 months, simply because most individuals who have had COVID tend to be protected for up to 6 months based on our experience from last year. So the incidence of reinfection in the first 6 months post-COVID is extremely low. And because you have that kind of a protection, we would want somebody to recover completely from their episode of COVID. And generally about 2 to 3 months is what the consensus worldwide is to receive her first dose.
All right, we have a doctor calling in now, Dr. Savita, calling us from Badlapur, Maharashtra. Go ahead with your question.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, Dr. Savita, do go ahead with your question, and you can turn off your television. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, right now there is hardly any treatment available for pregnant patients if they catch COVID.
Yes.
So can we give this monoclonal antibody for pregnant patients who get COVID?
All right, let's ask Dr. Sushila that, doctor.
Thank you, doctor, for asking this very relevant question. There is not very sufficient data in pregnant and lactating mothers to give a general guideline, but every case needs to be seen on case-to-case basis. And if the benefits outweigh the side effects, yes, one can consider, but should be at the discretion of the treating physician.
So right now we don't have any data particularly on that.
If I could just
so
add
there
to
is
that,
insufficient data, but it can be used on case-to-case basis. If the doctor feels that her chances of having a severe disease are more, so I don't think there is any hindrance in using monoclonal antibodies. And whenever you are in doubt, the mother's health takes the priority.
Absolutely. Dr. Pinto, you also wanted to add here?
So the study which was just published with this antibody cocktail, which was a phase 3 trial, actually recruited 3 different groups. So one group was children, one group was adults who were at high risk, and the third group is pregnant women. So hopefully we should be getting data soon on whether it's safe for pregnant women or not as well.
All right, we have a caller from Bengaluru. Ravi, go ahead with your question.
Good afternoon, doctors. My question was whether patients living with chronic liver conditions like hepatitis B and liver fibrosis can safely take the vaccines, and are those vaccines like efficacious on those patients?
Dr. Pinto?
So to the best of my knowledge, there have been no safety flags which have been raised for individuals with liver disease. However, individuals with liver disease in advanced stages of liver disease can have clotting abnormalities and can bleed very easily. So if that's the case, you use something called an INR as a measure of the tendency towards bleeding. You might want to be careful just from that perspective, that you might develop a hematoma or you might bleed a little. In terms of safety, I do not think there are any red flags which have been raised. In fact, a person with chronic liver disease would be at high risk for getting moderate to severe COVID, and therefore would be at a high priority to get the vaccine.
All right, and our last caller, Vasanti from Delhi. Go ahead with your question.
Good afternoon, ma'am. My question is, now since this cocktail treatment is in, can we give a sigh of relief? As one we have a treatment now.
Right, Dr. Sushila?
So I think she wants to just wants a confirmation now that can we celebrate that there is a treatment for COVID-19. Yes, most of the treatments have been repurposed. Most of the medicines which have been used have been made for some other purpose and have been used for COVID-19. This is one therapy which has been specifically made for COVID-19 and it helps in early disease and it helps in high-risk groups. But COVID has been such a big problem. We cannot say that everything can be solved with monoclonal antibodies, but this is one good weapon to fight COVID-19.
Can we hope it will get cheaper in days to come?
I would like to see that, yes. It should happen with more and more people becoming eligible for it. The manufacturers should give consideration, and I think it should become more affordable.
All right,
we can just hope for that, yeah.
All right, we're out of time now. Thank you so much, Dr. Sushila and Dr. Pinto, for joining us on the show and answering all those questions.